Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how I draw my drawings. So I usually start off with the eyes and then I go straight into the details. I don't really leave the details for later on. I just go straight into it, and that's just the way I do it. So this character, she's kind of inspired by my own culture. I did use a reference, but I'm not really directly looking at a reference. I kind of just memorized the imagery, then I turned it into my own. Typically I use a HB pencil. This pencil is, I believe it's pronounced Stabilo. It's cheap, it's affordable, and it does the job. It's a HB pencil. If you can't afford a branded pencil, the best thing to do is to use a nice pencil that sharpens well, because you need a very sharp pencil at the end of the day. The best sharpeners to use are those metal sharpeners, because they really sharpen your pencils very well. So my character is daydreaming. She's lying down, and initially the concept is she's lying down and she's casting a spell. She's got a cauldron in front of her. She's gonna be a mermaid because I love mermaids so much. They're so fun to draw, and I just love them. I usually work my way around the drawing, and I like to keep shading and keep going, keep doing little outlines, little stencils, and yeah. So I'm doing her hair. She's gonna have pretty heavy hair, and she's got bangles on, she's got a lot of jewelry on, because I really love to add in my culture to my drawings, because it adds a bit of a personal touch when I do that. I believe a lot of artists love adding personal touches to their art, and that's what makes your art unique, you know, if you have your own personal touch to it. When I'm shading a small area, I don't really smudge it with my fingers, but when I'm shading a larger area, I like to smudge with my fingers, because when you're smudging, it really creates a more realistic approach to your drawing. I'm shading in her hair. I'm colouring it in with 2B pencil, because 2B pencils are darker and it adds more definition to the drawing. But I'm still a bit shy with using darker shades of pencils, so at the moment I'm just using 2B pencil. But it's good to use 3B, 4B, 6B, 8B if you like, but typically I just use HB and 2B shades. I smudge a lot with my hands. Yeah, a lot of smudging. And she's got a sari on, so it's really fun to draw like lots of jewels and lots of like fancy clothes and stuff onto my characters. It really makes the imagery more mystical and like magical, and it's really fun to like make your drawing magical. I sharpen my pencil a lot when I'm drawing, because I really like my image to be sharp. I don't really like drawing with a blunt pencil, because it doesn't really help create a realistic image. I always keep my pencil sharp. And when I was drawing the tail of my character, I kind of just used my head and my own imagination. But you know, it's not ever wrong to use a reference as long as you make the image your own and you don't blatantly like copy when you're using a reference. That's just what I believe, but you can do what you want. There's no wrong or right when it comes to art, and that's the fun thing about art. So she's laying down on a bunch of pillows, so that's what I've drawn at the moment, and I'm just shading and smudging. There's a lot of shading and smudging when it comes to drawing. I use a white gel pen. The best white gel pen brand to use when you're drawing, I believe, is the Uniball brand. It's really pigmented. Their gel pens, they're quite expensive. They're like £2 for one pen, but it's so worth it because they last quite long and they're really pigmented, so it's really fun to use. When it comes to shading, it's best to use a reference for your lighting, because when the light is shining at a specific area, the shading is usually on the sides of the focal point of the lighting. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Usually when I'm shading and I'm like creating a light and dark effect to my drawing, I use a reference. I usually just take pictures of myself in different lighting. I decided to add flowers in the cauldron and moons in the cauldron, and they're gonna be like floating in a liquid. And the liquid, this might sound a bit scary or a bit extreme, but the liquid is supposed to be blood of the moon, basically. There's a lot of trial and error when it comes to drawing and smudging, and that's fine, you know. Drawings are not really supposed to be perfect. They're just supposed to be expressions of your imagination. They're just supposed to be your mind on a piece of paper, basically. It's good to let it out sometimes, how you feel in a drawing. And a lot of people ask me how I'm so good at drawing. I honestly don't think I'm amazing at drawing. There's a lot of artists that are way better than me, but if you want to improve on your drawings, the best thing to do is to draw every day. You know, your drawings don't have to be perfect, but just draw every day. Draw whatever you like. Draw anything, you know. And day by day you will see the difference of your drawings. Yeah, you will get better. A lot of artists have confidence issues. I have confidence issues myself, but it's hard to overcome them. But the best thing to do is to remind yourself that everyone is at a different level in their life. Everyone is at a different level in their art. No one is perfect, and if you think someone's perfect, it's because they've practiced, basically. I'm using watercolor paints. They're not really branded, because a lot of people can't afford expensive branded watercolor paints. That's fine, you know. These are actually children's watercolor paints. They're not really that pigmented, but they work, you know. They've got color in them, and it works at the end of the day. Once the paint has dried, I usually colour over the paint in watercolour pencils. I decided to colour in her sari, a turquoisey blue. The colours in your drawing are supposed to express the mood, so there's like red and blue, so there's a big contrast between red and blue, but it's supposed to show like she is laying down on blue pillows, which is supposed to symbolize that she's sad, and she's wearing turquoisey green, which is supposed to show that, you know, she's sad. But like the red liquid in the cauldron of the spell that she's casting is supposed to kind of like show she's powerful, because red is a very powerful, a vivid, powerful color, and the colors, they show a lot in your drawings, in your art. They say a lot, and drawings, they don't really have a specific language, so for everyone one image can mean so many different things. I use a white gel pen once the paint has dried to highlight everything. It makes me feel like a makeup artist when I do that. I'm using black paint, black watercolor paint for the background. It kind of faded to grey, but I expected that because I'm using really cheap watercolor paints anyway. But if you really want your background to be very pigmented, the best thing to do is to use acrylic paints, but very watered down acrylic paints. And once the paint has completely dried, I just go over everything with pencil again, because when you paint over your drawings with watercolor paints, the pencil markings, they seem to kind of fade away, so it's best to go over it with pencil to outline it. Make sure the paint is completely dried when you do that, because your paper can get messed up if you don't wait for the paint to dry. The paper that I'm using, I forgot to tell you guys, is cartridge paper, so it's thick paper, so it's really comfortable to draw on. It's good to invest into a nice thick quality paper, because the paper makes a big difference. Art is supposed to be, it's not really supposed to be anything wrong or right. It's supposed to be something, a place where you express yourself. The piece of paper is a blank canvas, and you know, you are the person who gets to express how you feel on the piece of paper, and there's no wrong or right when it comes to art. That's the fun bit. I use watercolor crayons when I'm coloring on top of my watercolor paints, because when I do that, it adds a better definition. At this point, I'm just coloring everything in, I'm just outlining everything, and I'm highlighting everything with my white gel pen. If you don't have a white gel pen, I suggest you get one, because they are so magical. They really make your drawings magical. They make them stand out a lot. They're really fun to use. hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I gave you some tips, and thank you for watching. Bye.